ink-a-dink, 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 ink-a-dink. Wow!
Hey! You know, somebody threw this back up at us. Somebody from the audience when we threw it out there. Does anybody want to hold on to these? I mean, these are lion-sized Hershey's Kisses. Basil got some of these. I guess you know, if you watch us occasionally. Basil got these. We found these when we were on a safari in the veldt in Africa. And for those of you who don't speak African, veldt means, it's actually probably Dutch, because it's the Afrikaans. The veldt is a flat plain. They could have just said flat plain, I'm sure, but veldt. And so Basil and I are wandering around the veldt, and Basil finds a bunch of these. He found like literally hundreds of them, and he picked up about 100 of them. And he's got a pretty strong arm, either left paw, right paw, or left paw. And he starts throwing them, and he's got a good arm. They fly through the air, they fly across Africa, hit the Atlantic Ocean, skip, bing, 635 feet above sea level, and they're in our yard in Bethel, Connecticut. And thankfully for us, between the time we were there and the time we got back home, there wasn't any rain, because otherwise we'd be handing these things out, and they'd have mushrooms attached to them. No, not psilocybin mushroom. Well, maybe. I don't know. So, I'm going to save this one, because now we got an extra. Okay. So, Friday night, we're talking about something that's happened already, Thursday, 3:45 p.m., and we don't know what happened, so we're at a loss. And you know that when we tape this early Thursday, all the shows that are coming on Thursday night are all scrambling to try to figure out what to talk about in their opening monologue, because if Donald John Trump resigned Thursday at 3:45 and said, I'm taking my crayons and I'm going home, you guys are picking on me, it's not fair, you call me a bully but you're the real bullies, and little Barack Obama did bad things and got away with it, and little Hillary Clinton got bad things, and it wasn't me that took her whatever you call it, and dunked them in the inkwell. She did it and blamed me. So I don't know. We don't know. The audience doesn't know. They all think they know what happened. They all think that the President of the United States resigned Thursday afternoon at 3:45 after he blamed everybody else for his failings. So here we are. We're going to pick up where we left off. First, we've been neglectful. We somehow or other, Attorney General Jeffrey Beauregard, Robert E. Lee, Davis Sessions, his head apparatus. We haven't shown that in a while, so we're going to show that. It says, welcome, KKK, welcome to Sessions Hood. And I guess that means you're here in Sessions Hood. So good. As you should. Okay, we've been neglectful of this $20,000 piece of art, and it's the painting that the Donald Trump Foundation paid to have someone do painting of him, and it's really lifelike. I mean, look at it. Well, first of all, we know it's his real. It's that painting, and Basil stole it from, I don't know, Mar-a-Lago or the penthouse in New York, or maybe the White House, who knows. But we know it's the real one because right here it says $20,000. So we know it's the real one, and you also know because it says Trump, which is a real family name, You know, because it's really lifelike. It's got the same, well, it doesn't have the orange hair. And there's a reason for that. See, Trump foresaw the need to have this done in green because he knew he had the Irish Protestant vote. You know, Irish, orange, Protestant, green, Catholic. He knew he had the Irish Protestant vote, but he wasn't sure about the Irish Catholic vote. So he figured if he did his orange hair in green, that would solidify them in his corner. So that too, I'll put that right there because that's. I mean, can't just sit around and collect dust. I mean, it's an important piece of art. So we're going to go back now. Gosh, I wish we knew. Robert Mueller, head of the investigation. We don't know where that's going to go between Thursday and today. Oh, okay. From the audience, while we're getting ready, got a couple of jokes, couple of openings of jokes, and we're going to have to take those openings and we're going to have to fill in the ending of it. Okay? First joke. 3 Russian spies walk into a bar. Well, this one's finished off for us. 3 Russian spies walk into a bar. 2 leave. And President Trump orders another drink. Okay. But we could do some other things with that. 3 Russian spies walk into a bar. ... Okay. Okay. Here's another one. It's finished off too. What President Donald J. Trump doesn't read. He didn't read his own book, The Art of the Deal. He had somebody else write it for him, and then glanced at it and said, "Yeah, it's pretty good." But he doesn't read. But maybe it's the movie we're talking about here. And instead of the Grapes of Wrath, the story, Steinbeck's great novel about the Oklahoma exodus to California, and it's rewritten to start the joke off. Joke starts off with gropes and wrath. But obviously, you're talking about, amongst other people, President or former President or future former President Donald J. Trump. Okay. Let's see. We talked briefly about how homeowner, the word homeowner has MEOW in it, and that's a clue to us from Basil, to Kristen and I, that Basil's got himself a home he's moving to, and if we're good, he'll take us along. He's telling us that it's a house that's not real big. It's about big enough for him and us if we duck into the corners and act like we're lampshades. Will fit. Everybody will fit. So he's got this home he's talking about, and he says it's got beautiful views of a lovely body of water. Says it's got a great deck that he can toss us out onto whenever he feels like it. It's got a patio, and on the patio there's a couple of little Jeffrey Petersons. By the way, congratulations again on the engagement, and I hope the bottle is placed, the Heineken bottle is placed in a way that it blocks the view of your littler Jeffrey Peterson. But so there's a couple of, let's say, healthier looking versions of little Jeffrey Peterson that are life size on the patio, and it's got 100 feet of waterfront on that body of water. For Basil's exclusive use, he's going to get a power boat. Well, he can't get a power boat for that because no power boat's allowed because it's not a big body of water. It's a little body of water. But it also has a ramp into Candlewood Lake, not too far away. And Basil is going to get a power boat. So he'll take us out on the, if we're good, he'll take us out on Candlewood Lake. So, okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to read a little bit more of this. Okay, this is to refresh you. It's my good friend of Basil's, good friend of mine, Rich Kolker in Virginia, who's pretty smart guy. He asked the question. What was that original question? If you could make one change in the Constitution, what would it be? Okay. And let's see. We got a little ways down. And then we get to a new one, a new suggestion. Alice Newsom Spivey says, Congress shall make no law that they exempt themselves from. Rosemary Holt says, parliamentary government. Audrey R. Karotkin says, straighten out the Second Amendment to clarify that it's about states and militia and not private gun ownership. Ken. Rosemary Holt says, back to Audrey, maybe it wasn't. Audrey R. Karotkin says, maybe it wasn't, but that's the change I want. Rosemary Holt says, come to think of it, that's true for sure about mine. Okay, then you don't have to say it again. You said it Thursday afternoon, Friday night. You don't need to say it Thursday afternoon, Sunday morning on our religious show, because I don't want to hear you call me that name. Basil said, too bad, dork. I said, first of all, I'm the boss here. It's my show. It's not called David A. Stevenson Presents. Goofy exclamation point. It is Basil BuddhaCat Presents. Strong exclamation point. So, okay, so I'm going to say that this remark about to be made by a certain dork it makes a little sense. Okay, thank you. Thanks for a little bit of. Oh, and by the way, speaking of dorks, Donald J. Trump and Tom Brady endorsed BM Baked Beans. And we ought to also, because maybe we can get a little cha-ching out of it. BM Baked Beans, original baked beans, 99% fat-free, excellent source of fiber. He's giving me that look, and he doesn't even have to say it. His question is, if it's 99% fat-free, what's the other 1%? Sweetness, what's the other 1% in BM Baked Beans?
Fat.
Oh, so it could say only 1% fat?
Good.
Is it, what kind of fat? Like lard or something, or?
Pig fat.
Pig fat? Okay. But, you gotta have a little pig fat in beans.
Well, they just put a chunk of fat back in there.
Yeah. Okay, so we haven't lost the account yet. We saved ourselves there. Okay, so here you go. So somebody who Basil describes as a dork, named David A. Stevenson, says, I believe it's about both militia and gun ownership. Perhaps limiting police forces' access to military-grade weapons would make a citizen less motivated to match police rat-a-tat-tat for rat-a-tat-tat. And we certainly on Sunday morning, just like we can't say the nickname for Drew Carey, we can't say that. We have to keep that at LFFF. I got to say rat-a-tat-tat for rat-a-tat-tat because I can't say tit for tat. Okay. Okay. So, okay. A little further down. Jerry Lawson says, sure, let the coast decide for the rest of the country. Okay. Joan Bizette adds, coming from Rhode Island, I like the Electoral College. It could be tweaked, though, to eliminate the actual electors and their ability to change what the voters have chosen. William Ostilero says, if we keep the Electoral College, the ability for electors to defect should be retained. But really, the EC has another need. But really, the EC either needs to be rebalanced for population growth or just abolished. I have no issue with the coast deciding for the rest of the country if that's where Seymour. This Seymour guy keeps popping up. You change your name to Seymour? When you keep... Well, you can't see because the bottle's in the way. Okay. We live in a representative democracy, and in the end, majority rules. There's no good reason why a voter in Wyoming should have more proportional power than a voter in California. This would also necessitate an increase in representatives in the House. Joan Bezet adds, why allow the electors to defect? Don't they represent the people's vote? Rich Kolker finally says something besides the original question. Rich Kolker says, Joan Bezet, the original concept was that they would be independent, wise men who would use their best judgment. Of course, then it was only men that voted, who would use their best judgment to choose a president. That pretty much ended after 2 years of Washington. Whether or not electors are allowed to defect, they are generally chosen in such a way that they don't. Joan Bezet answers back, the anti-Trump lobby put a lot of pressure for them to defect in the last election. Perhaps in the early days of the Republic, electors would be wise men, but I have my doubts about today. Okay, onward. Dennis Russell Bailey asks the question to name one one change in the Constitution you'd make. Says, only one? Loath as I am to mess with the Bill of Rights, I'd want some clarification on the Second Amendment, whichever direction that breaks. There's no reason that so many lives need hinge on arguments over a comma. And I wish I had the graphic of the Second Amendment, because there's a comma in there that lends itself to a lot of alternative interpretations of what the Second Amendment actually says. You have to look that up. We don't have it with us. And there are 2 replies. Okay. Rich Kolker says, don't feel restricted. I was just trying to focus people. No, you could say more than one. And then that dork that Basil keeps referring to as a dork says, machine guns, gangsters' weapon of mass destruction decades ago, were outlawed. Why not their equally destructive modern counterparts? Okay. Now we're on to another subject, another suggestion for changing the Constitution. Bill Dauphin says, right about now I'm wishing we had some mechanism for invalidating and rerunning elections that are proved to have been corrupted. But that's probably not workable, and it's fraught with peril. That's for sure. Aside from the heat of the political moment, I have long thought that we should add to our enumerated rights some protection of the freedom of sexual expression. Something like, Congress shall make no law that prohibits, restricts, or promotes any act based on its sexual nature alone. The intention is to prohibit the legal restriction of sex, per se, while maintaining the ability to regulate sexual things. We're supposed to be talking about this Sunday morning, by the way. When there's some other basis to do so. For example, sexual assault would still be illegal because it's assault. Okay, 2 replies. Okay. Rich Kolker replies, what about some way to vote no confidence in a government like in the parliamentary system? And Leslie Plummer adds, Richard Pryor. What's this got to do with Richard Pryor? None of the above. Okay. All right. There you go. So, good friend, hey, who's also good friends with Rich Kolker. Our good friend Phil Specht in northeast Iowa. Phil in Iowa from the, also as Rich Kolker was, part of the Howard Dean campaign in 2004, where I met all these folks. Well, some of these folks. I don't know most of these folks here, but a couple of them. So, Phil Specht says, a privacy amendment. Leslie Byrne adds, the Equal Rights Amendment. Women should be included in the Constitution. And there's a reply from John Christoph. Says, also protections for non-binary and trans folk. So we're getting inclusive here. Okay. Okay, now Rich Kolker says, I'm playing with a political novel which presupposes a constitutional convention. I came up with a bunch of ideas of which might be debated, but wanted to see what others might be thinking. This might go back to the original thread, the original beginning of the thread. Okay, Chris Day adds, if you're going whole hog convention, I would complete the transition from confederation to federal government to something more centralized, Basing everything on states may be outdated as many people move when the federal government has inserted itself into, there's that Seymour again, inserted itself into local issues. Education is one thing that is funded at the local level and regulated also at the state and national level. On the other side of the ledger, sanctuary cities creating different immigration policies, or maybe more accurately, results on a federal power. From the beginning, controversial issues are left to the states to decide. Not sustainable for slavery, and now gun control and abortion seem to have the same problem. I see potential savings as well if we reduce the number of legislators and administrators on every issue. Okay, now Leslie I. Plummer. How about all presidential elections, post-primaries, must submit full financial disclosure and verifiable medical psychological exam results before the first debate? And then she replies to her own comment. Oh, no, okay. Here's the replies from, okay, one of the replies is from Leslie I. Plummer, but Chris Day replies, I'm with you on financials, but I'm not sure I agree on medical. Doctors can't disclose STD information to spouses, but once you get elected, your pap smear result gets sent to the New York Times. And I'm not sure how any doctor can give a complete exam. Half of... This Seymour guy is getting more comments than anything else. And I'm not sure how any doctor can give a complete exam. Half of the clearance is based on history, and that is given by the patient. A longtime family doctor would be suspected of bias, and a new independent doc wouldn't know the history. Leslie I. Plummer answers back. I'm not saying the whole top to bottom. How about the standard trend, but with total results for a verifiable doctor, so we don't get the drive-by exam, which 45 was in his car, fake notes from a doctor who later admitted he never examined 45. 45 not being Colt 45. You know who we know. You know what we're talking about. And I wonder what he talked about Friday at 3:45. Yikes! Is this all for naught? Okay. No, Norton, I don't want you to keep it running fast. Okay. John Christoph adds, abolish congressional districts and elect the legislature with single transferable voting, a multiple winner race with multiple candidates from each party allowed in a non-ranked preference ballot. Tony Belkowski answers, eliminate the Electoral College and have the president elected by popular vote. Then, Dork. Where are we? Okay, Rich Kolker adds, that's the initial motivation by the characters to move to a constitutional change. Then stuff happens. Okay, then Dork says, I believe nearly enough states, representing close to 200 electoral votes, have initiated legislation that will mandate their electoral votes to go to the popular vote winner when their sum total surpasses the 270 or so threshold to make it relevant. In other words, once you have 270 states with 270 electoral votes that have mandated that their votes go to the top vote getter, then that's it, because they've got the 270 votes. Okay, then Dork starts off one. Ranked choice voting, also known as instant runoff voting, because third parties are important and should be allowed and encouraged to grow and become stronger. And we have some responses. John Christoph. IRV doesn't encourage third-party representation, though. Like FPTP, IRV still mathematically trends toward a two-party system. Typically what happens in instant runoff voting systems is a third party shows up for one election, gets a handful of votes, and then can't sustain their movement into any future election. But unlike FPTP, they don't have any spoiler effect on the other two big parties. Then John Christoph adds, also, instant runoff voting is not the only ranked choice voting system. STV, Schultz board account, contingent vote, and supplementary vote are also used ranked choice ballots, but the votes are counted differently. Okay. Then a response from Dork. Somehow, through our 240 years as a nation, political parties have sprung up based on important issues of their time, like the anti-slavery movement, and then stayed around. Other political parties have fizzled out and died. Any idea how that happened, John? Oh, wait a second. Any idea how that happened? Why it hasn't happened in many decades? And most importantly, what we can do to allow it to happen again. In my opinion, the two-party system breeds or inbreeds corruption and a fake narrative of, we're different than the other party. Never mind that we both serve corporate interests. Okay. A little wordy by Dork. Okay, Leanne Allen offers the constitutional equal rights. Okay, David Bean offers outlaw gerrymandering. And there are 2 replies. Okay. Okay, hold on. We lost ourselves here for a second. Come on, come back. Come back. Well, we'll have to pick this up later on because we jumped pages. Oh, found it again. Okay, hold on. Okay. Basil said, is that you thought I had clumsy galumpy paws? Okay. Okay. Oh, by the way, shout out to Phil Specht in his suggestion of privacy amendment. Thank you, Phil. Okay. All right. Go back to outlaw gerrymandering. And Dork adds, take the center of every existing congressional district and expand outward with a circle, square, or rectangle. Some difference. No Rorschach ink blot allowed. Make that the law, then no political party can mess with it because they can't make election districts that look like they look like 20-legged spiders. Okay, and Randall Clegg adds, census boundaries have to respect geographic features to be usable. Congressional districts are collections of bounded census areas. Any other construction would be impractically unwieldy. I don't know if that's a way of saying that, because some congressional districts are designed so that you take every black voter in the state, and by that I mean North Carolina as an example, take every black voter in the state and put them in one congressional district so they have no effect on anything other than getting one black into the legislature, which doesn't make a lot of difference when it comes to the legislature. Okay, onward.
They say they'd rob your grandma blind on Wall Street, on Wall Street. Fritter her away her Medicare on Wall Street. And Pharma Oil and their pet fox don't care if she lives in a box, so long as they wear platinum jocks on Wall Street, on Wall Street. Meow.